We're going to be watching the Transsexual Empire versus, oh my good lord, how do I pronounce his name? Xanthos Phoenix?
Hang on. Oh, yes, I know him. Xanthos Phoenix. He's actually a viewer of mine. Really nice guy. I just call him Phoenix because there's the actual there's a word in there somewhere. So I just call him Phoenix for short. It's a lot easier pronounced than that whole thing, especially when you're trying to talk about docs and then Xanthos Phoenix units are coming in, but then suddenly Transsexual Empire's bombers start going, and then Xanthos Phoenix gets two beautiful anti-air shots with the docs units.
I feel that the word Xanthos gives a certain,
Xanthos.
Yeah, gives a certain gravitas to the name, the Xanthos.
Okay, yeah, sure, let's do it. I mean, I call him Phoenix. Let's go with Xanthos. It sounds cooler, right?
Well, absolutely, and that's really what names are all about, isn't it? Is your name cool? No, well, we're not using that then.
Yeah.
But let's just take a look at what we're going to be playing on now. So we're moving on to Miso as our next. We're moving on to Miso as our next map. So we're going to be seeing a mix of land and naval. Another map that can take it. Well, if two players play cautiously enough, as a map that can take quite a long time. But very interesting, a very difficult balance between when you transition from the land into the naval. And one of those instances, I think, as well, where you see how hard it is once you lose the sea to get the sea back. And I see a lot of players who think they're doing well because they've won the land, but they haven't got themselves a naval presence, and in the end, they lose the long game.
I was gonna say, especially on the higher tier ranking matches, it can be really important just to go for both. Having some docks to harass on the land while you've got the early fabricators going around to secure the metal inside the navy, or the sea, excuse me, can be, I mean, that can be game changing in itself.
Yeah, it's going to be it's a very tricky one. I like Miso. It's a really great map for having to make some long term decisions about your game.
But it's not as good as Berg, huh?
It's
not a favorite.
It doesn't. It's probably because I'm not as good at Miso. That's probably why I like Berg more.
So you're one of the navals. You're one of those that masses the narwhals, eh?
No, I think most of my wins on the land. I think I get more wins on Pacific than I do on any other map. Because I have good results on Pacific. I seem to have a better naval game than many players of my level. Berg probably have
what's
less
your level?
successes.
What rank are you?
I'm too chicken to fully commit to the dock strategy. I make the mistake of I'm going to go docks. Oh my god, I should get some vehicles out, and then suddenly I've got an army composition that's really rubbish.
I mean, personally, it's probably the most enjoyable thing to see when you're playing on Pacifica or something like that, and you just go mass scuba divers, and your opponent's like, "Oh my god, this is so OP! What are you doing? Why can't I shoot these
scuba
units?"
divers? Is this Barracudas?
The Barracudas, yeah.
they're scuba divers, are they?
Well, I mean, they're underwater. They can kind of chill around under the sea, and no one else can.
They're mermaids.
They're very linear mermaids that don't have fins. Yes.
Yes, there we go. I think singing crabs. Chorus of mermaids. We're ready for Under the Sea. Ghost later in this cast. Ghost may be giving a rendition of that.
Yeah, maybe if you're paying me.
Yeah, it's going to be beautiful. You didn't get the check? Oh, unbelievable. We'll talk.
Oh, you guys pay people? What? I'm gonna have to talk to your manager, Quitch.
Now, it's What do you think? What do you think about this game then? I mean, in terms of these two players. So we've got Transsexual Empire. We've already seen this one is the only person in that group now to have won every game. So I've got to say that she's the favourite going into this then.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, just by the number standards, she should win this. I have to root for my friend though. You know, I can't just say, oh, she's gonna wipe the floor with this guy. There's nothing that can happen, but I want to believe.
Well, Xanthos, his only loss so far was to Tunzel on Blitz. He did win his Pacific game though, so it's certainly not. It's certainly not without a chance here. It's yeah, a Tunzel's tough opponent, as we saw, and indeed Transsexual Empire almost lost to Tunzel. So losing the Tunzel in itself does not necessarily mean you're disadvantaged in this game. And winning the Pacific game also means looking relatively robust. Because again, weakness for a lot of players is going to be the naval game, and that doesn't appear to be the case here.
Very much so. Now, everyone is ready. The readies are going up. There are no GGs, but whatever. So, Mesa, though. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it, honestly. I do enjoy the fact that both players have to respect that is you can't let either side win. You can't let the naval win. You can't let the land win. You got to go for both. But I don't know how we're going to see, because Transsexual Empire, especially with her play last game, it was a lot more passive, so we might see that kind of, that curse, I guess, the naval curse with just playing way too passive. Maybe come back and haunt her. Don't know how Xanthos is going to be doing. Hopefully we won't see the curse on either one of them, but it has happened, as we saw with the Wandable versus that other person, which I have forgotten, because, you know, I'm so good at memory.
This is Ghost. Everyone, if you need to write in your complaints about the disappointment, the name is Ghost, spelt Ghost.
Just
So
put Ghost Reaper, then a smiley face, and
file
I'll
your
get...
complaints now. But we're now into the round 4 of the Big Bang tournament with esports.com. And just for those of you who are only just recently joining us, just to reintroduce ourselves, I am Quitch and I'm joined by Ghost.
Hello there!
So we have the Transsexual Empire versus Xanthos Phoenix in this map on Miso. So this match on Miso here. Transsexual Empire coming in with 3 wins so far. We just saw a real nail biter against Tuncel, and Xanthos coming in with only a single loss against Tuncel.
Gonna see how this plays out, though. Of course, the...
Seeing begging already coming in.
I mean, he knows me. I'm not gonna be nice. Let's see, though. You know, I always wonder this, but either this is just a really happy person-looking thing, or it's just a giant stingray.
I see
that
the happy crab, maybe.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe there's the fins down there. It could be a really deformed merman.
God, no, please.
It could be. Hard to say, but we'll see both players here going for relatively similar openings. Bot into air. And then Transsexual Empire, then she's moving on to vehicle factories. Looks like going to see heavier bot presence as Xanthos, but it's just going to be that balance here of how long do they wait before they get into the water. Perhaps oftentimes getting an air fabber out, that's how you're going to start your sneaky expansions. Your naval factory might not be next to your base, it can be sometimes further out into the water so your opponent doesn't realise that it's been put out there. A good early naval start can often secure you the game here, but you've just got to balance it out with holding the eco that you gain on the land.
I was going to say, I would really like to see, I mean, with having Xanthos going for the bot factories, personally, that's a bigger, I like that choice already. Since it's, you know, it's much cheaper to throw 40 or 50 bots versus, you know, only like 10 or 15 tanks. Personally, it just feels like it's a lot more controlling, especially in a 1v1. There's a lot more pressure on you. There's a lot more things riding on you, and having, you know, just the feeling that, like, you're actually tying from what we see, but to you, the player, just the mind game of, oh my god, I'm losing these tanks here, these docks are pressuring here, it can be a lot more stressful. So personally, I love the idea that Xanthos is going for this bot harassment with this air fabric that won't get picked off by this anti-air, so that's always nice to see.
Well, I'm interested here. We see a pelican, which is about to get blown out of the sky.
Nope. Oh, it's chasing. It's chasing, but the
it's
commander...
going down. Oh. And we see as well a fabber lost there for Xanthos early on. That's a bit unfortunate. Transsexual Empire, on the other hand, pushing out aggressively. I do like, as you say, all bots, especially you can use them when you transition to the naval stage as well, whereas any tanks you've got on here are not going to be doing anything at that point.
Very much so. Xanthos, though, going for some Grenadier poke here. It's really nice to see this. Though it's, you know, it can get picked off quite easily, and if you're actually microing, it's going to be really good. But Transsexual Empire probably just kind of in a million other places besides, can I micro this one dock so it doesn't die to a Grenadier shot? Actually doing really good pressure here, and Xanthos actually taking out a couple metal extractors already.
I see neither player... Bit of an attempted expansion by Xanthos around the back. There's a docks there from Transsexual Empire to spot this, and unfortunately nothing nothing that can take it out. So that one docks is denying the rear island. Meanwhile, Transsexual Empire got a fighter sitting on the friendly deformed merman.
Oh.
And a rather strange choice here, putting a pelter up on the mainland, which I'm not sure with this kind of open ground. That's a good choice. A laser turret would be much better.
I was going to say, usually having the Pelter just kind of shows that it's more of a commander push. Usually, you only see Pelters when there's a commander push, and you're kind of stuck in this really awkward comboxing position, and you need to win. The Pelter is really just a way to kind of shoo them out. But, yeah, very aggressive, especially since, you know, docks can kind of go a little faster than a pelter shot, so very poor choice there, especially losing that radar. Personally, I think that radar was more valuable than that pelter, but it looks like she's going to keep moving out here and sort of start clearing out her side of the metal, which there really isn't anything for her to attack, so wasting some travel time here on these units, and just it's the little things that are going to win this one here for Xanthos.
Yeah, Xanthos making some very good push on the land here, and starting to slowly pull ahead in the army count, although perhaps not quite an equal comparison since seeing bowlers going up for Transactional Empire. There were some naval factories queued up there, but they have just been cancelled for Transactional Empire, so I'm not quite sure. Oh no, they are re-queued, perhaps just sorting out the positioning there. So she's starting to make her moves into the water, but this is a good window then for Xanthos to try and make aggressive pushes on the land and pick up this eco lead that he's already forming.
I think the naval decision here from Transactional Empire is definitely the one that she needs to be doing. Just the fact that literally Xanthos hasn't decided to go back into naval either. It's going to be just like with the tier 2 rush in naval, you know, who does it first? Who's going to get there first? And with this extra metal that she will be grabbing, it's just going to give her that extra oomph that, you know, these bots won't be able to shoot the metal extractors in the water. And it doesn't really look like that Xanthos has any form of naval to try and counter this, though his commander is starting to move out. Of course, as I'm mentioning it, he's going to start building his own naval army.
Well, Xanthos microwaving nicely there, keeping his grenadiers and docks alive, and making use of the trees as well. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but with grenadiers, with docks, with those rapid rate of fire, it can make bolos quite useless in tree areas because they fire one shot, it hits a tree, and suddenly they're useless for 2 seconds. Docks, it's not such a big issue. Forest starting to burn down now, it's going to make it trickier, but still, so nice unit micro. But Transactional Empire again going for that wider eco build that we saw that she employed against Tunsel.
She might have the wider eco build, but the problem is, I mean, just current map control, at least on this island, Xanthos is in a very commanding position. Besides this one air fabricator that actually isn't going to get picked off here, I mean, everywhere that I look, it's green. There really isn't that much purple trying to move out on the map. There's some anti-air flying around in this just giant body of water, but it's not really doing anything. It's just kind of wasted scouting vision right now, and there really isn't much that Transactional Empire can find that is really going to hurt Xanthos. Xanthos playing a very secure way to move out. I mean, he's not really going slow push tanks, but he's not really going aggressive fast docks. He's playing this really nice mix of everything is just doing everything. It's just on point everywhere we look.
No, I have to say, I think he's played it really smartly. I mean, he's now transitioning into the water at just the right time. He's got the edge on land. He's got the troops out there. He's got a good commanding position, but he can't fall behind the water. He's not. He's moving out. He's getting up his naval factories. So Transactional Empire lost a good opportunity there to perhaps be the first in the water. She's been driven off her own mechs as well. You see some Fabbers hiding in the corner of the mainland. It's a good. She's perhaps her only edge here is that she's got a lot of fighters out there, and it's going to be she should be making better use of this air advantage and perhaps using these air fabbers to put up these naval factories, because I keep seeing them getting cancelled and they still haven't gone up, and she's waiting really late to get into the water.
She is, but at the same time, I mean, as you mentioned, this strong air presence that she has, this one fabricator, though there's only one, it's really gained her the lead, and she's actually floating on metal now. So I mean, while she is behind on the ground, she can easily build a lot more factories to really start pushing this back, and Xanthos really needs to start getting that naval out if he wants to control this lead that he has given himself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we look at the unit count now, we see that Transactional Empire is evening that up, so Xanthos is just really going to have to keep pushing and keep knocking down the resources of Transactional Empire and really make use of this naval advantage to get these ships moving. As you can see, he's already got a couple rolling out because he's starting to stall his economy now, and he's not expanding aggressively enough. He needs more fabbers out there. He's only got one on the field, and really there's a lot of metal, and he's got land control. He really should be taking that metal because it's his now.
He does have land control, but it looks like these trades are starting to slowly move back into Transactional Empire's control. It's 100% versus 48% efficiency here, and this commander should not be building that factory. It should be just firing an uber shot to clean up all these units, and I think it will just kind of do that now. The really big army kind of standing in between both bases here from Transactional Empire. These naval units starting to work out, but it's the proxy base in the back that I think is going to easily give this to Xanthos here. If he's able to get the fabricator out, get the anti-air out, protect that stuff, there's a lot of metal just around that little itty-bitty island, and as long as he can control that for a lot longer than Transactional Empire, it's going to be in his favor the rest of the game.
Yeah, it seemed that he's used his land advantage to transition nicely into naval, which has allowed Transexual Empire to get back into the game on the ground. But as long as he can own the sea, as I said before the match started, it's a lot harder to get back into the water once you've lost it. It's much easier to transition from naval to land than it is from land to naval. But he's
Do we have the numbers for how much metal is on the the super island versus just around the rest of the planet? Because I would assume it's probably in the naval player's favor anyways, just to go for the naval expansion and just say, you know what, here, you take this island, I'm going to take the rest of the planet, you can do whatever you want.
I think it's about a third of the metal is on the mainland, and 2/3 of the metal is off that mainland. So you have to have a presence out there. I mean, you don't necessarily have to have naval, but the problem is if the commander goes out there, and naval's very good against air. Narwhals can be a mainstay of your force. It can make it very hard to get near a commander when you've got a unit that can shoot everything. So you have to get naval presence out there. And you can use the land as like an early eco boost to push you out there, but the land is not where this map is won. It is won at sea, and I think Xanthos is showing a better understanding of how to play this map.
Very much so. Not many bombers. That's, I think, the one thing that I would really like to see out of Transactional Empire here. If she really wants to start gaining control of this island, and then start looking at getting control over this naval game. I mean, obviously, a lot of the narwhals are starting to kind of come out, and they're actually going to get to her base. But there isn't any anti-air on the ground for Xanthos at all. I mean, I think there's one anti-air fighter, but it just got cleaned up, and there's really no air presence here out of Xanthos, and I think that's going to be the way that Transnational Empire doesn't just get back into the game. I mean, obviously, she's got some control over this island, but that's how she gets into the sea. That's how she'll get control over some of the map, and that's where she could really kind of even out the game, even though she's economically ahead.
Well, she's starting to lose a land base now because she hasn't got any good defenses against that navy that's coming into harbour. So she's had to proxy out the back. But I see Xanthos heading in that direction. He hasn't scouted yet. He's just following his Fabba. But she's going to have to be very careful, because the second that proxy gets discovered, she's in real trouble, because it's not that far away from the fleet of Xanthos. And right now, I feel like she might have missed her transition window. She should have been just... All these factories, they kept getting queued up in the sea, and they kept getting cancelled. I don't know what's taking her so long to get out there.
I like this decision here out of Xanthos, though. He realizes that, hey, I've got the longer range for his naval units, and look at this. This army is trying to get, some damage out, but these narwhals and this orca just have so much range. She needs to pull those units back, send the commander in, get some torpedoes, just get something that can actually kill the sea. And Xanthos, though he's he's going to lose his base here if he doesn't micro these units enough. I mean, he's in a much better position, I would say, than Transsexual.
No, I think so. I think so. The land base has almost served its purpose. Even if he lost the land base now, I don't think it's going to make a big difference. He's got the sea, and that's really that's what that land base is for, to buy the resources and hardly get out into the ocean. If you lose the land base, okay, that's not great, but it's not going to lose you the game as long as he doesn't focus too much on just destroying the Transnational Empire's base here and keeps up his scouting, because he needs to find his proxy that she's built up.
Commander's starting to move out here to clean up these naval units, though, and that's going to be the rest of the pressure on this base. Now, yeah, that proxy is going to be, I think, the deciding factor for this game. If it stays up, she has her chance. If it doesn't, she's stuck on the island, and it's just kind of a matter of time until Xanthos just gets enough units, gets that one Leviathan lucky shot that kills off the Hulkins that doesn't get built in time, and then, it's going to be over. But a huge, huge land army here, and this is, that's what she needs to do. She needs to start flexing those sweet muscles there, get some of that economy that she should have. I mean, there's only like one fabricator, but I mean, there's just metal all over on her side of the base that she just needs to start grabbing, but it just doesn't seem like she wants to.
Yeah, and again, we see a mismatch almost in the economy.
Oh, but that bomber,
she's starting to tank energy again, which is the problem that she had the last game, especially when it came to firing the Uber cannons and there was no energy to fire them. And floating that metal as well, not quite getting the production. Perhaps needs a couple more fabbers out there to be aggressively putting up some factories. I think really it just needs to have someone somewhere with a line of factories ready to roll, because she seems to expand and grab eco faster than she's spending.
Now this commander back on Xanthos' side, though, he's starting to move out. I think he's actually reclaiming trees, interestingly enough. I don't really know if that's the best choice. I think they're probably building something else or just using something better than just reclaim. He's going to be really out of position, and if Transsexual Empire sees this, I mean, she can easily go in and She's gonna back off. I don't think that's... Yeah, she needs to go in. She could easily go for this kill here, but very passive play. I don't like this decision out of her. She needs to go in. She needs to realize that she is in a very commanding position.
Well, it's a dangerous one. She had her army was positioned poorly to attack. It would very much be a single file thing in, and an Uber can in the middle of that could have really devastated the army. In terms of the reclaim, we had an air factory queued up, unfortunately, on top of the trees. So
Okay.
it was chewing through those. Now she's moving over to him, but I think he's going to make it to the water.
She missed her window. That was her opportunity to quite literally kill the commander.
Oh, he's GG.
No, Ping. He
Oh,
killed off the commander.
Well, we suck because there was a kill on the other side.
What?
I'm not even sure that. I'm not entirely sure that Xanthos knew he was about to win. I think he was surrendering. I'm not sure.
I
though.
thought he was. What?
But
Wait,
on the other
hang
side,
on. When those units come in to do the killing thing?
yeah, she's got a command.
Oh, there was 5 narwhals and 2 orcas that made her run to the island out of pure safety.
Yeah, but that was,
and then the orcas just
that's a terrible idea. If it's orcas and narwhals, you
Oh.
just got to fight the narwhals and then take out the orcas. You don't run onto the. If you run onto the shore,
You're
then the
gonna
orcas
die to
can
the
shoot you as
orcas.
well, and that's a terrible idea. Oh yeah, I mean, I think we're looking there at a really tight game, and unfortunately, Transaction Empire just again caught with Commander out of position. And then
last
then makes
game,
a
I don't
poor
think she was
decision.
out of position. She was playing defensively, but this one, that was a... I want to say the same thing about Xanthos, though. Because if she would have just been a little more aggressive, just right-click on the commander and kill him, he would have died. I would bet the money in this prize pool that he would have died on that.
Well, let's have a look at what was there. I mean, we were talking about like 20 tanks, 10 grenadiers.
Yeah.
And the commander was not 84% at that point. So yeah, potentially. I think potentially there was a good opportunity to win there, and unfortunately, just kind of missed it. And really, I'm surprised to see that both of these players just trading all the resources on this map over and over, even when it seemed like Transsexual Empire had a substantial lead on the land on this map. Still, there's a force pushing into her base. Just didn't seem to quite grasp the game as she should have.
It seemed like that was, like you said, that was her crutch for the last game, was just... Economically, she had it. It's just the biggest thing was her energy, and she just didn't have the units, but when she had that opportunity, she didn't take it, you know?
No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Xanthos played a really solid game. I really liked what he did there. He played aggressively on the land at first, but then didn't fall into the trap of just building more and more land. He smoothly transitioned into naval, which, as we saw there, kept Transsexual Empire under a lot of pressure, and she never seemed to really recover from that. When those ships turned up, took far too long to transition to naval herself, built a proxy that never ended up doing anything. And we see on the backside,
I think as long... Sorry, go ahead, sorry.
I was just saying, we see on the backside of the planet, it's slowly starting to take that over as well. Yeah, she had an economy, she just didn't spend it well enough.
I think Xanthos's everything was on point. The only thing was his decision to build an air factory on the ground. I mean, his commander was quite literally easily able to just walk into the sea and build the exact same thing. But for some reason, he just wanted to build it on the ground, I guess. And, I mean, besides that one decision, I think everything else was absolutely flawless from him.
No, I think he played an incredibly strong game. Some good troop... I suppose you could nitpick the troop compositions a little. But... yeah, I think overall played very strong. Perhaps a more aggressive scouting, and Transsexual Empire didn't really make use of her air advantage very well. There was a great
Agreed.
There was a great opportunity to own a lot more of the map than she did.
Well, she had all the anti-air, but there was no bombers to blend in with that, so there wasn't really a whole lot of actual attack potential. It was more just defensive.
Yes, seemed to be very worried about being attacked. I can sympathise entirely, because this is a problem I suffer from. You worry so much about just making sure that your enemy isn't going to bomb you, that you build fighter after fighter after fighter to control the skies, and then you never take advantage of the fact that you're the one in control of the skies.
I think that just comes down to vision at that point then, and I don't think we saw much scouting after probably the 4-minute mark from either player.
No, I think we've seen a lot of that in these games, that the players haven't been very aggressively scouting each other. I mean, if we let's take this back to the halfway mark and just have a look at exactly how much they knew about each other. Because I'm looking at Transsexual Empire's base now, and Xanthos knows absolutely nothing about it. He can see there's a vehicle factory, and a vehicle factory is being built, and that's the total sum of his knowledge.
Yep.
And Transactional Empire seems to have done a better job. I think that's because you had the skies, there were fighters that flew by every so often.
Yeah, I think there was like 1 or 2 fighters that flew by just kind of out of patrol random, and they just happened to skirt past the base just by pure chance.
Well, in itself, it's almost there. It's a good reason just to have that there, because of the fact that it gives you such great vision. I mean, in PA, there's really no excuse for not knowing what your opponent's doing, because it's so easy to scout. It's not like StarCraft 2, where someone walls off the ramp and suddenly you can't get in there anymore. Here you can just fly over at any point and find out what's happening.
Actually, if you're still at the halfway minute mark here, looking at the vision for Transactional Empire, she actually saw the proxy base proxy outpost here from Xanthos, so she should have known. I think that's why she built that naval in such a interesting spot instead of maybe like closer to her base. You put it right next to that little island. I think she knew that there was something going on there, and she had to protect it.
Well, I think we saw at several points of the game she was flying fighters around the island. She was very worried about air fabric expansions, although perhaps it got a bit excessive. You got a bit excessive with she got a bit excessive with these fighters and flying over these islands. 1 or 2 would have been fine, and then perhaps using the rest of the force to get a better grasp of exactly what Xanthos was doing. There wasn't a great awareness shown about what Xanthos' navy was doing.
That is, yes, I would agree. I think, well, obviously that was what ended up killing her. But when she saw the 4 factories at the about 8-minute mark here, I mean, she had to have known, at least in the back of her mind, there's this naval thing. It's something. It's big. It's coming.
Yeah, anything would have been better than I think what she did there. Unfortunately, either she had to put a naval presence out there, or she needed to be getting up the torpedo launchers. Because as we saw in the Pacific game, torpedo launchers very good against ships.
Torpedoes.
They're much more effective than say a laser terrorist against land. You can really control a naval with a torpedo launcher, and ships will miss them a lot of the time when they fire as well. Devastatingly effective, but she didn't control the shoreline at all, and really was punished.
Agreed. I mean, overall, it's just kind of Xanthos was very aware of this map. I think his just general map presence and his map awareness was just absolutely on point. He must have seen a lot of those replays, very aware of what the higher tier, higher level players were doing, which was, as you mentioned, that nice slow transition back in, the hard naval. How do I speak English?